we'll start talking here. This right here is the compressor. This is the evaporator. This is the condenser. This particular one here is the what we would call the accumulator. Okay, and obviously there's fans blowing, kind of like a squirrel cage fan there. This is a fan that's I got like a blade and all that kind of stuff. Okay, and now then, all I want to know is evap, condense, compress, accumulator, and there's also an orifice tube, which is a little tiny fan that basically catches the refrigerant and mists it out so that it changes it from a high pressure liquid to a low pressure liquid. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw this, and whenever I get through drawing it, I'm going to have somebody else come up here and draw it, and then I'll have somebody else come up here and draw it after that, right? I really ought to draw that up here with my Sharpie so that it doesn't get erased over time, right? Okay, so this right here is going to be, let me get my, see if my black marker works. Okay. Barely, barely, barely. Coming out of here, of the evaporator, and I draw that kind of close on purpose. This right here is a fan, by the way. It's poorly drawn, but that's what it is. It's actually a squirrel cage fan, like it's got on the motor. Now then, this right here is the big suction line, and it goes here. And then there's a slightly smaller line that's going in here. This is called the discharge line. Everybody got that? Really smart. See, he's drawing what I'm drawing here. All right, and there's a smaller line. This is a big fat line that's probably an inch in diameter, roughly. This one right here is usually about half the diameter of that line. And this one over here, this little line, it goes through here, it's going there. This right here is what we call the liquid line. But this orifice tube is liable to be just about anywhere in that liquid line. You got me? Okay, and on a Chevrolet pickup, like these older Chevrolet pickups, like you had a Chevrolet pickup, an older one, you probably still got it. He's got one. On those, it's behind the grill. Jeremy, look up here. It's behind the grill, where you got to pull the grill off to get to it. And a lot of them Chevrolet trucks, when they're old, when you're trying to take those lines loose to get to that orifice tube, because you've got 2 wrenches you got to take loose, they're welded together. You know, they've galled where you can't get them apart. You got to replace the whole condenser, you know, which doesn't really cost all that much if you buy them from a parts house and all that kind of stuff. Okay, so. Yep. Can you go down a little bit? All right, there we go. Okay, so you can stick your hand in brake fluid or antifreeze. What does your hand feel like when you got it on there?
Hot.
It gets warm, yeah. It gets warm because the boiling point on that. The boiling point on a refrigerator is 21 below zero. The lower the boiling point is, the easier it is for it to evaporate. The higher the boiling point is, the harder it is for it to evaporate. Okay, so when your hand is actually colder than this stuff that's got a really high boiling point, it's going to make your hand feel warm. That makes sense? I mean, you get that? That's what this works. Okay, so as this condenses, it turns from a gas into a liquid, right? And then it goes back through this receiver dryer where there's a desiccant bag and it's, getting filtered. And then it goes back up here. This is like a filter. Like I say, remember that needs to be changed. And it goes back through the expansion valve. And then it goes up in here to the evaporator and starts over. So you're making a big circle. You're picking up heat here. You're carrying that heat here. This starts to get hot. This gets even hotter. And that's pretty doggone hot. However, yeah. Let me show you this. The Hyundai has got what they call a subcooler. And it's got 2 chambers in there. This receiver dryer is not there in that one. It's actually mounted here, right? Okay, and this is coming off down here. All right, so what happens is, this comes in here, condenses, turns into a liquid, and then it goes through here, then it goes into this lower part, and this liquid that it has turned into gets cooled. And then as the liquid gets cooled, it's basically cooler to begin with when it's going over here. But it's also going through this expansion valve. And then this makes you cold, so it's still doing a circle. But this is called, remember this, sub-cooler. When somebody's talking about a subcooler, they're basically talking about a condenser. But typically the receiver dryer is going to be built right onto the side of that unit instead of being in that liquid line. You got that? Okay, so that's something right there. Now then, some of these cars, like some of these Hyundai cars, have got what they call an Aqs Air Quality Sensor. Have you ever been driving along and you smelled exhaust fumes coming off of an old Chevy pickup or something in front of you? All right, well, that air quality sensor, it picks up on that, and what it does is it turns your air conditioning to max air to shut that smell out. I will tell you what it cannot smell is a dead cow. If you're behind a rendering truck, you're going to have to do it manually because it doesn't know it's smelling a dead cow unless there's a lot of methane coming out of the dead cow.
Just wanted to share with you that the Andalusia truck's out there for inspection at your convenience.
I'll do it.
And there's 2 of those little jugs you like with the lids on your bench. Thank you.
All right. Now then, let's jump into our test, guys. Let's make this happen quick. We need to go to lunch in about 40 minutes. All right. All right, now then, let me grab, hold on, let me grab Okay. All right, let me see here. I had to get a copy of the test so I know what the questions were. It was kind of dumb on it. Okay, the correct location, wait a minute. Yeah, that's heating and AC test 1. This is coming out of your textbook, and tomorrow, you guys that are you know, the technical waivers and all that, y'all can get your textbooks and stuff tomorrow, okay? So you can get that. On the correct location for the pads when hoisting or jacking a vehicle can often be found where? A, near the triangle symbol, B, in the shop manual, C, in the service manual, D, all of these. Okay, let me ask you this. Who looks those up? There's a book out there that we've got. There's actually a hoisting, you know, place thing. And but I don't know anybody that looks that up. You just look under there. If you've jacked raised a few vehicles on the lift, you kind of know where to put them. But one of the things that people get confused about, like Crown Victorias and stuff, have got a frame and the body's mounted on rubber. And so people get used to only unibody cars, you know, like your cars where the frame's made into the body. They want to, you know, put it under the place where the jack goes when you're changing a tire. That's fine on those. On the Crown Victoria or some of the pickup trucks, you don't put it under the body of the truck, you put it under the frame. If it's got a frame, you put it under the frame. On the pickups, I like to put it under that round part of the rear spring. So anyway, D, all of the above. For the best working position, the work should be what?
Chest or elbow.
Chest or elbow level, basically you're going to do this. I don't know if you guys you ever done anything in repetitive motion so that you started getting really sore, like, you know, like some people have carpal tunnel when they're doing keyboard stuff. I knew a guy that worked at the parts department at the Ford place, and he was standing here at the keyboard all the time, punching in and looking at parts, and he started having really rough pain in his arm right here, nasty stuff. But anyway, chest or elbow level. Here's the point. If you put one on a lift, if you know you're going to be working under the hood for a while, and you got a lot of work you got to do under the hood, and you got a lift, or even if you can put it on a jack, the smartest thing you can do, particularly if it's a little car, like imagine him, Garrett, working on that little black car he drives and having to work on it all day long. You're going to have a sore back at the end of the day, ain't you? So if you can put it up on about this high on your lift, where you can just stand here flat-footed and work on it, you're better off. You're not going to, that's an ergonomic thing. High-strength bolt is identified by what? How can you tell a high-strength bolt from a bolt that doesn't have any strength?
On the top, the letters?
Yeah, that's basically going to be, if you've got lines or, not letter codes, you got basically on a, this is talking about standard bolts. Lines on the head, 3 lines is grade 5, 6 lines is grade 8, no lines is grade 2. Metric bolts have got numbers. The higher the number, the stronger the bolt.
See, I don't like the way that's worded. Because in my opinion, a high strength bolt would be a grade 8, but lines can be anywhere from 2 to 8, and I don't.
Yeah, that's a poorly worded question. I don't disagree with that. A fastener that uses threads on both ends is called a what? Come on, guys. Is it a machine screw, a crest fastener, a stud, or a cap screw? It's a stud. It's a stud. All right. When working with hand tools, what you supposed to do? A or B?
Pull.
Well, I will say that
Depends.
the tool guy always, what they want you to say there is A, always pull the wrench. But whoever made that rule has never worked on very much, because sometimes you ain't got no way on earth you can pull that wrench. You're just gonna have to push it. That's just the way it is.
Sometimes you gotta push it.
I mean, but I even had the tool guy one time tell me, you're always supposed to pull a wrench, not push it. I had about 20 years in the field already when he told me that. I said, I can take you where you can't push nothing, and where you can't pull anything. I mean, if the thing has got to be turned that way, and what are you gonna do? Get on top of the truck? I don't know. I'm gonna push it if I need to. But the problem is, I will tell you this: I was pushing a wrench with my leg one time, trying to break it was a big wrench. I mean, this wrench was this long, but I was pushing it. I was up under a forklift, reaching up behind the counterweight to break a big hydraulic line loose. And that hydraulic line was real tight. I pushed on it with my hand to start with. I couldn't move it, so I was using my leg. So I went to push that thing with my leg, and it broke loose all at once. And my leg snapped out straight, and I hyperextended that knee. Boy, that hurt for a month. Golly, I didn't expect it to go that fast and that loose, But when it broke loose, it broke loose. But anyway, what I'm saying is just try not to injure yourself. How many of you have ever been pushing on a wrench, and when it gave way, you barked your knuckle?
Oh, yeah.
That's what they're talking about. You know what I'm saying?
You can hurt
I'll tell you
yourself-
something
hurt
else
yourself
too.
pulling it, you still
And when
hurt
you're in this business, after you've barked your knuckle a time or two, it don't bother you a bit. You just peel the hide off and keep going. It's not a big deal. Some people, they ain't used to that. You'll see their hands shaking and they feel like they're getting pale and all that stuff. But you can't be a wuss if you're going to do this kind of work. It's all okay. All right. The proper term for channel locks is what?
Multi-groove adjustable pliers.
That sounds right. Multi-groove adjustable pliers. Although I don't know anybody that calls them those. Hey, you ever heard me say, look in the toolbox and get me a pair of multi-groove adjustable pliers? That's too many words, man. Throw me some channel locks over here. Some people call those water pump pliers. I don't know exactly where that came from, but the guy I worked for at a filling station in the 70s, he called them water pump pliers. And I never heard anybody but him call them that, but anyway, there may be other people, but the proper term for vice grips is?
Pliers.
Yeah, that's locking pliers. Two technicians are discussing torque wrenches. Technician A says the torque wrench is capable of tightening a fastener with more torque than a conventional breaker bar or ratchet. Technician B says the torque wrench should be calibrated regularly for the most accurate results. Who's right about that?
B.
Obviously B. Which type of, don't ever use a torque wrench for a breaker bar just to break something. It's really a sort of a delicate tool. You're not supposed to go crazy with it like that. Which type of screwdriver should be used if there's a limited space above the head of the fastener? Of course, nobody's ever run into that in here, have they?
Stubby.
Yeah, an offset screwdriver would be the right answer for that one, because a stubby still takes up quite a lot of room. And offset screwdrivers, I kind of like to use the little, they've got these little ratcheting tools that you can snap a little bit into.
What does all this mean? Offset, Robertson? What does that mean?
Well, sometimes you'll see silly, stupid, second-rate, half-wit answers. Impact screwdriver, have you ever seen one? It's a thing that you've got a screwdriver bit on the end of it, and when you hit it, it turns. It's really for breaking loose really tight screws. When you whack it, it actually is spring-loaded so that it turns. Almost nobody's got one of those, but they work really good.
I didn't even know that they.
Have you ever been trying to take a brake rotor off of a car and you got them stupid big screws in there and you can't break them loose because they're just, those are really handy for that. If you whack that sucker good and hard, it actually turns when you hit it. And
What's a Robertson screwdriver?
I have no earthly idea what a Samuel is. I've never heard of that before. On some of my tests that I would write, I used to put stupid answers like heated hydrocarbon vent, which meant nothing, but it confused people, So basically, you're just going to go on that. Which type of hammer is plastic coated, has a metal casing inside, and is filled with small lead balls?
Dead blow.
Dead blow hammer. That's right. Exactly right. Good answer there. Number 11. Turn pages. Turn your page. Technician A says the number of threads per inch on a metric bolt is called pitch. Technician B says metric bolt threads are designated by the distance between threads measured in millimeters. Which technician is correct about that?
Well, I don't know.
Wait a minute. Number of threads per inch on a metric bolt? Come on
Where's
now.
that at?
All right, now you're going to go,
Oh, I
that's going to be a
think
B
that
there.
was
Yeah, you pay attention to the inch there. Which character of the vehicle identification VIN number indicates the country of origin?
I was assuming it was D for number 11.
Yeah, number 11 was B. It was,
Wait, B?
All right, now, on a metric bolt, let me erase this. Everybody's already copied it by now. On a metric bolt, you got your little thread, threads are here. You're going to measure from there to there in millimeters, and that's what your metric bolt is. So it'll be like 1.25, 1.50, something like that, because it's like 1.25 millimeters, Now on a standard bolt, it's how many times you have to turn it to make it go an inch. See what I'm saying? That's how you do on those. All right, so just remember that. Now Daniel can help people that lose whenever they're trying to buy bolts, right? All right, now then, let me see here. Which character of the vehicle identification number indicates the country of origin? The first one. You'll see that when you see those things broke down. One is USA. Some of them will start with a J. What do you think that is? Japan?
Japan, that's what I was assuming.
Shocker.
Okay, let me see. A bolt is described as M8 times 1.5. Okay. Technician A says the bolt is 8 millimeters long. Technician B says the bolt is a UNF bolt. Which technician is correct?
I don't know what UNF is, but I don't think the first one's right.
Wait, 8 millimeters long?
Well, I mean, what is M8? What does that mean?
It's not 8 millimeters long.
It's the
You're
width.
majoring on matters. What you got there?
Well, A's not right.
Yeah, A is not right. I don't
Yeah.
think A is right.
Okay,
What
so
is this?
What is UNF?
neither one of those guys is right. That's a D. That's neither one of them are right.
Well, what was
Technician A says open end wrenches are the same size on both ends. Well, some of them are. The ones that are got the crooked end on, real strong crooked end. But this basically, open end wrenches will usually be two different sizes. Huh? And so, let's see, where are we at here? Technician B says an open end wrench is the best tool to loosen a seized fastener.
Definitely not.
Neither one of those guys are right. Sometimes you can't get anything but an open end wrench on it if it's like a line or something. Which size Phillips screwdriver has the largest point? 1, 2, 3, or 0?
3.
1.
Wait, yeah, probably 1.
B.
Or 3 again.
That's number 3. Technician A says a 6-point socket is more likely than a 12-point socket to round off fasteners. That's wrong. Technician B says a 12-point socket is more likely than a 6-point socket to round off a fastener head. That's B. Both of those guys couldn't be right because they're saying opposite things. See how dumb some of these questions are? Technician A says safety glasses are only necessary when working with power tools. And Technician B says to remove jewelry when performing automotive service. You notice I took my ring off this morning because of that. All right. So, what do you think?
B.
A 17. That's basically a boy. B. I say boy instead of B because it makes you confused. Technician A uses safety stands when removing large components from a hoisted vehicle. What do you think about that?
That's very good.
Technician B always lowers the vehicle on the mechanical locks after lifting the vehicle to the proper working height. Now, why is that a good idea, guys?
Because it can come off and not be on line.
Not really. If you're on the locks, now the locks are going to keep it from coming down on you. But if you got the hydraulics holding the weight of that vehicle, it ain't good for the hydraulics. You know what I mean? You just really ought to lower them onto the locks. That little set of things that roll around up under the front end lift that you raise the thing up with, people weren't lowering those on the locks for a long time here. They would just let the hydraulics hold them, and it destroyed that ram. And it wasn't really all that old. It could started leaking real bad, getting where it wouldn't work. And so whenever he came over here, the guy to fix it, and he took it apart, the side of it was chewed out in there.
Well, how are you supposed to, what if you need it to be at a certain height? And it's the
You
lock
lower it
doesn't
on the
go to it?
locks. It's not,
Well,
it's not, if its tires are off the ground, who cares?
what if you lower it down to the lock and the tires are back on the ground?
You got to go up until they're not, and then lower it down on
Well,
the
what
lock.
if it won't lower on the lock then?
Well, you're going to have to put Jackson tent under it. Do something. But anyway, it costs $550 to fix that dadgum thing because of that.
Yeah, because that Toyota, I don't think the people that use the drive on lift, I don't think they lower it.
They don't. They're not going to do that. Second-rate amateurs.
I mean, I don't ever use that lift.
All right. So the technician A says, Class A fires consist of burning liquid. Technician B
What
says.
was 18? Whoa.
Sorry about that. Well, actually, I didn't give you the answer to it, did I? That was C.
Right, yeah, we do that.
Both of them.